Listen. Before you scroll, before you doubt, give me 10 seconds. If you've ever whispered a dream and immediately felt stupid for wanting it, this is for you. If you've been shrinking your desire so it doesn't make other people uncomfortable, stop. Because the life you want, blocked by luck, it's blocked by fear. And fear hates two words I'm about to give you. I want to tell you the truth we avoid because it makes us responsible. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you believe you're allowed to want. Most of us are walking around with deep, invisible shame about our desires. We say things like, I don't want too much. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want people to laugh. So we keep our dreams small, quiet, and socially acceptable. Here's the hard part. Every time you downplay your desire, you teach your nervous system that wanting is dangerous. And a body that feels unsafe will never move toward possibility. It will cling to familiarity even when familiarity hurts. So here are the two words. Say them softly. Say them honestly. I choose. I choose growth. I choose abundance. I choose healing. I choose more. Not because it's guaranteed, not because it's easy, but because choosing is an act of courage, and courage rewires your brain. And don't tell anyone yet. Not because it's a secret, because your dream deserves protection before it faces opinions. This is where manifestation actually begins, not in the universe, but in your willingness to choose yourself. Here's what nobody warns you about when you start choosing yourself. Shame gets loud. The moment you say, I choose, something inside you panics. It whispers, who do you think you are? That voice isn't intuition. It's conditioning. It's every moment you learned that wanting more made you selfish, dramatic, or ungrateful. Let me be very clear. Shame is not a stop sign. It's a signal. It shows up right before expansion. Most people think manifestation is about confidence. It's not. It's about tolerance. Your ability to tolerate being seen, being misunderstood, and still moving forward. And when you can't tolerate that discomfort, you self-sabotage before life even gets the chance to meet you halfway. This is why telling people too early can kill a dream. Not because they're bad, but because their fear collides with your vulnerability. They project logic where you need faith, caution where you need courage, doubt where you need momentum, so you keep it quiet. You don't announce, you don't explain, you practice choosing in private. You choose when nobody is clapping. You choose when nothing has changed yet. You choose even when the evidence hasn't caught up, because here's the truth: the body believes repetition, not motivation. Every time you say, I choose, and take one aligned action, one uncomfortable step, you teach your nervous system that desire is safe, and safety is magnetic. This is how things begin to shift, not dramatically, but subtly. Conversations change. Opportunities appear. You feel a quiet pull instead of panic. You haven't manifested the outcome yet. You've manifested permission, and permission is the doorway. Let's talk about the part nobody posts about, the waiting. You choose, you commit, you do the inner work, and then nothing happens. This is where most people quit. Not because they don't want the dream, but because the silence feels personal. We mistake neutral for rejection. We assume if it hasn't shown up yet, we must be doing it wrong. But here's the truth. Delay is not denial, it's integration. When you say, I choose, your identity shifts faster than your environment. And the gap between who you were and who you're becoming, that gap feels uncomfortable. Lonely, exposed, your old coping mechanisms don't work, and your new life hasn't arrived yet. This is the in-between, and it is sacred. Most people rush to fill this space with distractions, with over-explaining, with settling. They lower the standard just to stop feeling uncertain. But uncertainty is not your enemy. It's proof that you've stepped outside the familiar. Here's what you must understand. Manifestation responds to embodiment, not urgency. The more you chase, the more you signal lack. The calmer you become, the more aligned you are with receiving. So instead of asking, when is it coming, ask, who am I becoming while I wait? Because the waiting is shaping your nervous system. It's teaching you to hold more without panicking, to trust without proof, to stay open without control, and this is why you don't tell anyone. Their timelines will make you doubt your own. Their impatience will infect your process. You stay quiet. You stay steady. You keep choosing. Because the life you want doesn't arrive when you're desperate for it. It arrives when you're ready to sustain it. Let me say something that might make you uncomfortable, but stay with me. Not everyone wants you to win. And even the ones who love you can still feel threatened by your growth. When you start choosing yourself, you disrupt the unspoken agreements around you. You stop playing the role that made others feel safe. You stop shrinking. And suddenly, your courage becomes a mirror, showing people the risks they didn't take. That's why silence matters. You don't hide because you're afraid. You protect because you're becoming. Every time you explain your dream, you give other people the power to vote on it, and most people don't vote from belief. They vote from fear, experience, and limitation. So instead of seeking validation, you build self-trust quietly, relentlessly. Here's the real work, aligning your behavior with the identity you've chosen. Not when it's convenient, when it's costly, when it would be easier to fall back into old habits. When nobody would know if you quit. This is where integrity is born. You start asking different questions. Does this choice honor who I'm becoming? Am I acting from fear or from alignment? Would my future self thank me for this manifestation? Isn't magic. It's coherence. Your thoughts, your actions, your boundaries, all telling the same story. And when they do, something powerful happens. You stop forcing. You stop convincing. Life begins responding without you begging for it. Opportunities don't scream, they recognize. So stay quiet, stay grounded. Keep choosing. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your body must believe the future before your life can reflect it. We think manifestation happens in the mind. It doesn't. It happens in the nervous system. If your body is braced for disappointment, rejection, or loss, it will unconsciously steer you back to what feels familiar, even if familiar is painful. This is why saying, I choose, isn't just words. It's a signal of safety. When you choose calmly, not desperately, you tell your body, I can handle what comes next. And a regulated body is open to connection, open to opportunity, open to receiving. But here's where people get stuck. They confuse excitement with alignment. Excitement is loud and short-lived. Alignment is quiet and steady. Alignment feels like grounded confidence, not anxiety dressed up as hope. So when fear shows up, and you don't fight it, you don't shame it, you say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm choosing differently now. That's courage. That's self-respect. That's manifestation. And this is why you don't announce your plans, because regulation requires privacy. Healing requires space. Growth requires room to wobble without being watched. Instead of proving, you practice. Instead of performing, you embody. You start moving differently, speaking differently, setting boundaries that feel uncomfortable but clean. You stop chasing people who can't meet you where you're going. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you become someone who expects good things without clinging to them. That's when life responds, not because you demanded it, but because you're finally ready to receive it. Now let's talk about the hardest shift of all, letting go of who you were rewarded for being. Somewhere along the way, you learned that love came from performance, from being agreeable, from being needed, being low maintenance. And those patterns worked until they didn't, until they started costing you your truth. When you say, I choose, you're not just choosing a future, you're grieving an identity. And grief is quiet, heavy, confusing. It makes you second guess yourself in moments when nothing is actually wrong. This is where people retreat. They go back to what feels familiar, not because it's right, but because it's known. Familiarity feels like safety, even when it slowly erodes your self-respect. But here's the reframe: discomfort is not danger. It's data. Every uneasy moment is your nervous system learning a new language. One where you don't over-explain. One where you don't abandon yourself to keep the peace. One where you don't apologize for wanting more. You begin to notice something subtle. You're less reactive, less desperate to be understood, You stop chasing closure from people who benefit from your confusion. This is growth, and growth often looks like stillness from the outside. Fewer words, fewer justifications, more intentional silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you're listening to yourself. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. The choosing has already happened, and when the old version of you knocks, asking you to go back, to settle, to stay small, you thank them for getting you this far, and you keep walking. Let me tell you something most people won't admit: manifestation doesn't fail. People quit. Not loudly, not dramatically. They quit quietly. They say the words once, maybe twice, feel inspired for a day, and then they return to the same habits, the same doubts, the same emotional shortcuts. And here's the hard truth: the universe doesn't respond to intensity, it responds to consistency. Those two words you said, they weren't a spell, they were a commitment. A commitment to show up differently when no one is watching. A commitment to act in alignment even when it feels boring, slow, or unrewarded. This is where courage lies, not in motivation, but in repetition. Every day you choose to think the thought again. Every day you choose the behavior that matches the future you want. Every day you resist the urge to explain yourself, to justify your vision, to look for validation. And yes, some days you will feel nothing. Some days you will doubt everything. Some days you will wonder if it's working at all. That doesn't mean it's not happening. That means it's forming roots. Confidence isn't loud. Belief isn't dramatic. Real change is often silent, slow, and deeply uncomfortable. You don't manifest by hoping harder. You manifest by becoming steadier, by keeping your word to yourself, by honoring the process even when the results aren't visible yet, by staying when the old version of you is begging for familiarity. Here's the moment people don't expect. The shift doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with recognition. Suddenly, things feel different. Not perfect, not magical, just aligned. Conversations flow more easily. Opportunities feel less forced. You're no longer chasing. You're noticing. And that's how you know something has changed. Because when you stop betraying yourself, life stops testing that boundary. This is where discernment replaces desperation. You no longer say yes out of fear. You no longer cling to what almost fits. You trust the quiet no in your body as much as the excited yes. And that trust, that's power. You start realizing that manifestation isn't about pulling something toward you. It's about removing what blocks it. Self-doubt, over-explaining, people-pleasing, the need to be liked. And here's the paradox: the more grounded you become, the more things move toward you naturally. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're clearer. This is why silence was essential. You needed space to listen to yourself without interference, to recognize what feels expansive versus what feels draining, to choose from truth, not fear. At this stage, you don't rush, you don't announce, you don't negotiate your worth, you let things unfold, because now you understand something most people never learn: peace is a manifestation too. And once you taste it, you will never trade it for chaos again. By now, you're starting to feel a shift inside. You've whispered those two words, and yet the real magic isn't in the words themselves. It's in the intent you carry when you say them. This is where most people falter. They think the universe responds to mere repetition, as if words alone hold the power. But here's the truth. It's your unwavering belief, your vulnerability in admitting your desires, that activates the energy around you. That trembling mix of hope and fear, that's the signal the universe has been waiting for. You might feel doubt creeping in, questioning if this will actually work. That's normal. Doubt is not your enemy. It's your companion, a reminder that you're stepping outside the familiar. Each time you acknowledge it and keep moving forward, you strengthen your manifestation muscles. And remember, the key isn't in broadcasting it to everyone else. It's in the sacred space you create when no one is watching. That's where your power multiplies exponentially. This is your secret strength, the quiet, unshakable belief that you can call anything into your life without having to explain, justify, or reveal it to the world. Keep nurturing it, feeding it with emotion, clarity, and persistence, the universe responds to the energy behind your words far more than the words themselves. Soon, everything you've been quietly summoning will start to ripple outward, creating shifts that will surprise even you. The final step, the last section, is about solidifying this new reality and stepping into it fully. Now, everything comes together. You've whispered those 2 words, felt the tension between doubt and belief, and nurtured your secret desire with unwavering focus. This is where transformation crystallizes, the moment you stop chasing and start being. Being aligned with what you want without needing validation from anyone else is where true manifestation lies. It's not about forcing outcomes or controlling every detail. It's about embodying the energy of already having what you seek. Ask yourself, how would your life feel if it were already yours? The clarity, the confidence, the exhilaration of living fully aligned with your deepest desire. Hold on to that feeling. Let it saturate every action, every thought, every choice. The universe doesn't argue, it mirrors your inner certainty. By claiming your power in silence, by keeping your intention sacred, you create a force that is unstoppable, undeniable, and inevitable. And here's the secret no one talks about: manifestation isn't about the words. It's about the you who says them. It's the courage to stand in your desire, the vulnerability to admit it, even if only to yourself, and the persistence to continue when nothing seems to be happening. So today, carry those 2 words as your silent mantra. Let them fuel your actions, ignite your courage, and sharpen your focus. Step forward boldly, knowing that the life you've imagined is already responding to the energy you've unleashed. The universe is listening. Your moment is here. Claim it,